Good day, everyone. My name is Sudhakat Gul, and welcome to my presentation about International Human Resource Management, focusing on a comparative analysis of IHRM practices and strategies across four different countries and four different continents: the Americas, Eurasia, Africa, and Oceania. The title slide introduces the overall identity, theme, and scope of this presentation and provides some key information is shown in the slide. The purpose of this presentation is to explain global HR strategies, a comparative analysis of IHRM practices, the theoretical frameworks applied, and supports a clearer understanding of each slide included in this presentation. This presentation highlights and addressing the main learning outcomes from LO1 to LO4. Also, the citation of relevant references is listed in each slide, and all the full references can be seen at the last two slides respectively. This slide addresses LO1 by defining the IHRM, its importance and its practices in organization, and how these can be linked with organizational behavior activities in terms of culture and regional differences. Now, first of all, what is international human resource management, which can be defined as the set of activities aimed at managing human resources at the international level to achieve organizational objectives and gain competitive advantage at both national and international levels, according to Fan et al. 2021. Unlike domestic HRM, IHRM involves with additional complexities such as managing employees from different culture backgrounds operating under diverse legal system and handling expatriates, host country and third country employees. According to Sparrow et al. 2016, there are three broad approaches to IHRM. The first one, the universalist approach, the contextual approach, and the integrative approach. Now, the second panel of this slide examines the role of cultural and regional dimensions in shaping HR practices. According to the Hofstede, identify six culture dimensions such as power distance, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence versus restraint, each of which profoundly affects workplace behavior, leadership expectations, and employee motivation. The Globe study led by Robert J. House also examined leadership style across 62 societies. In addition, Trumpenners and Charles Hamdi Turner 2020 proposed culture dimensions that explain how people from different cultures approaches work and relationship. Organizations that adapt their HR practices to local cultures often achieve higher employee engagement, better retention, and improve global performance. The IHRM practices in the United States. This slide summarizes that an American organizational behavior is based on individualistic and performance-driven HR model that focus on the merit, innovation, decentralized decision-making, and productivity. Many organizations follow the employment at will system, which gives employers and employees flexibility, but offer less job security, which is explained by Stone and Dedrick 2015. Like for example, how? According to the Hofstede and Menko 2010, US workplace culture has low power distance and strong individualism, which means that employees expect open communication, participation in decision making, and opportunities for career growth. Decentralized management structures also encourage innovation and quick decision making. However, strong individualism can sometimes reduce teamwork and collective bargaining, with union membership in the US declining to approximately 10% of the workforce, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics 2024. The key challenges for American is they are facing complex regulatory landscape that includes federal legislation such as the Family and Medical Leave Act FMLA, the Americans with Disabilities Act ADA, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act alongside different state labor laws that can vary dramatically. Immigration policies, especially the H1B visa program, can create uncertainty for hiring skilled international workers. Additionally, the growing emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) has become a strategic priority, and also their health calls. The best practices is that They are using AI for recruitment screening and cloud-based system for employee continuous professional development. Companies like Google, Microsoft, and Salesforce set benchmarks with data-driven HR practices. Competitive compensation often include bonuses, stock options, health benefits, and flexible work. The post-pandemic remote and hybrid work models have become common, shaping talent equations, employee engagement, and cultural benefits. Likewise, explaining the United States IHRM framework and labor landscape with having a civilian labor force of over 160 million, being the top destination for skilled migrants, 78% of companies investing in DEI programs, and $4.5 trillion in annual employee benefits, highlights the complex environment leaders operate in. In light of LO2, effective leadership in this context requires a blend of approaches, traits like adaptability, culture awareness, and functional knowledge to manage HR policies, benefits, and DEI programs are implemented effectively, and behavior and style approaches to balance task-oriented and people-oriented actions. The contingency approach is critical as leaders use a mix of directive approaches for compliance and efficiency, and their participative style to boost engagement, inclusion, and employee well-being. Now, for critical analysis, the US HR model is performance driven but has limitations. Employee at will systems gives flexibility but can create job insecurity, while HR technology adaptation like AI hiring and analytics is advanced and good. The immigration policies also affect MNC talents. Otherwise, the American healthcare system cost and gaps remains a challenge. The DEI agenda is important, but sometimes it is only performative rather than driving real change. So, for IHRM practitioners, the lesson is that effective diversity management requires meaningful structural change, not just programs. The IHRM practices in Eurasia, especially Russia and CIS, Commonwealth independent countries, has a unique HR landscape with hierarchical management, centralized decision making, and strong state influence on employment practices. The Russian organizational culture values high power distance and collectivism, prioritizing group loyalty over individual achievement. They have defining feature of business culture in this region which is blood, which is an informal system of networking and reciprocal favor that has deep historical roots in the Soviet era and continues to influence recruitment, promotion, and business relationship. While blood can facilitate trust and favors, but can also encourage nepotism and challenge foreigner companies entering the region. Now, the key challenges include political instability and economic sanctions that affects foreigners, brain drains of highly skilled professionals to Western economies, often making it harder for MNC to find qualified local talent, complex and rapidly changing labor regulations, balancing centralized versus decentralized operation. Now, the best practices for this model is by adapting to Western HR models to hierarchical norms, which mean that MNC adjust them to fit in the local culture, respecting authority and hierarchical structures common in CIS nations. Investment and leadership development to bridge culture gaps mean that the company train local and expatriate leaders to understand culture differences, improving communication, teamwork, and management effectiveness, offering flexible work arrangements suited to local infrastructure, implementing strong CSR initiatives to build employee trust, loyalty, and retention. This slide presents a comparative framework of centralized versus decentralized HR models, which is particularly relevant in the Eurasian context. Centralized HR models ensure consistent policies but may clash with the local culture, while decentralized models give flexibility but can create coordination challenges. Now, the critical question for IHRM practitioners operating in Eurasia is how to balance the need for global consistency with local realities, using classic topology of ethnocentric, polycentric, or geocentric staffing approaches to decide whether to adopt home country practices, local practices, or a hybrid model that draws on the best of both. The IHRM practices in Africa, Nigeria, and South Africa with contexts of organizational behavior, it is shaped by the Ubuntu philosophy, which means I am me because we are, which emphasizing community identity, shared responsibility, and relational leadership. This philosophical foundation creates workplace cultures that value respect for elders and collective well-being alongside individual performance. The workforce is young, digitally skilled, and many workers are in the informal employment sector. The key challenges include high youth unemployment, which means that many young people struggle to find jobs, creating a talent shortage in the market. The skill gaps in technical and managerial skills, making it difficult for companies to find qualified employees. The limited infrastructure that slows HR technology adoption. The political instability with inconsistent regulations. Now, the best practices include vocational training and workforce development initiatives, CSR programs to build community trust, mobile first HR solutions to improve recruitment, payroll, and employee management, partnership with the educational institution to help create talent pipelines for future hires. Africa is the world's youngest population with 1.4 billion, with about 60% under 25 years of age. While this demographic profile offers potential high youth unemployment around 40%, widespread informal work up to 85% of jobs. So there must be strategic priorities set to cope up with these states, which includes the adoption of mobile first HR solutions. Safaricom's M-Pesa platform in East Africa has transformed financial inclusion and has been adopted for salary disbursement in the formal sector. These are initiatives and government MNC partnerships. Now, the critical outcomes for this region include that the Western HRM frameworks may not fully fit and capture the African context because of cross-cultural management. The Ubuntu philosophy emphasizes community over profit, offering a different view of leadership. Company needs strategies that both address formal and informal employees. As traditional employment models often do not apply and may not be appropriate for the majority of the workforce. The IHRM practices in Oceania, especially Australia and New Zealand, presents an IHRM landscape characterized by egalitarian workplace cultures with strong employee protection frameworks and focus on work-life balance. Australia's Fair Work Act 2009 provides one of the world's most comprehensive employment protection framework, which ensures wage, working hours, and dismissal protection, while New Zealand's well-being budget promotes holistic employee support. Both countries value flat hierarchies, direct communication, and participative decision making. New Zealand has similarly progressive legislation, including the landmark well-being budget. Now, the key challenges is that Oceania is a global leader in HR technology and flexible work, with 92% of Australian companies offering flexible arrangements and 45% of employees working remotely or in hybrid roles. However, the region faces major challenges including skill shortages in mining, healthcare decline in rural areas, and high living cost. The climate also change and affect the industries like agriculture through floods and extreme weather that creating job instability. Their best practices include advanced HR technologies, employee well-being, and using mental health program to boost engagement and also flexible working arrangements. To fill any critical skill gaps, Australian employers sponsor visa program, which are the subclass 482, subclass 186, subclass 494 for temporary and permanent residency criteria. This slide explaining the key states for Oceania region, which is 92% of companies offering flexible work. Number 3 global ranking for work-life balance. Companies invest around 11 billion Australian dollar annually in HR technology. Additionally, 45% of the workforce works in remote and hybrid roles. Now, the HR technology and well-being context for Australia and the New Zealand, that Australia Fair Work Act 2009 is employee protection frameworks. Their cloud-based HRS platforms for geographically dispersed teams. Because Australia and New Zealand are geographically vast with significant distance between cities and remote regions, and their companies rely heavily on cloud-based HR information system. And the New Zealand was the first country in the world to introduce a well-being budget in 2019. And also they are using employer-sponsored visa pathways subclass 482, 186, 494. Now, the critical outcome and lesson learned from this contingent HR model includes strong legal protections, Fair Work Act, massive HR technology investment, government-led well-being frameworks, and high adoption of flexible work. This table comparison and analysis of IHRM practices shows clear differences across four regions using seven key areas, including that in leadership style, the USA and Oceania have individualistic, participative leadership, while Russia and Africa are more centralized and Ubuntu-based leadership. Regarding cultural dimensions, the USA and Oceania are individualist with low power distance, while Russia and Africa are more collectivist with high power distance, emphasizing respect for authority and community. For recruitment, ranges from AI-based in the USA to network-based in Russia, mobile platforms in Africa, and global skill-based recruitment in Oceania. And training and development, pay and compensation also vary by region from formal training to online in seniority-based pay and community benefits. In employee relations, the USA has an at-will employment system with declining unions. Russia follows state-regulated agreements. Africa has normal community-oriented relations. And Oceania features strong union with fair work standards. Lastly, the key challenges vary across region include immigration and healthcare in the USA, brain drain in Russia, unemployment in Africa, and skill shortages in Oceania. In this slide, I uses a bar chart to compare three illustrative indices across the four regions, showing HR technology adaptation, work-life balance, and workforce diversity. It shows that Oceania leads in work-life balance, the Americas lead in technology adoption and diversity, and Africa has lower technology adoption but significant potential for growth. The accompanying key elements include the technology gap, the universal importance of culture, Oceania's leadership in employee well-being, and the impact of talent mobility policies across regions. This slide summarizes four key findings from the comparative analysis towards strategic priorities. First, contextualization is critical, which means successful HR practices must be adapted to local cultural, economic, and legal environments. Second, cultural dimension directly informs management approaches, from leadership styles and communication norms to performance expectations and reward system. Third, technology unifies yet differentiate regions, which means that digital tools enable greater global integration. The fourth one, employee well-being, which is now a global priority. This presentation identifies four key future trends that will shape the evaluation of IHRM globally. The first one, the integration of artificial intelligence into HR processes. Second, the rise of platform-based work in the gig economy. The third, ESG-driven links that strategy towards the HR. Fourth one is the cross-cultural competency. This slide provides key references which have been taken from the Google Scholar and Scopus, which has been prepared in Harvard style by using Mendeley desktop software. Also, the citation of relevant references is listed each slide and all the full references can be seen here respectively. That's all. Thank you and have a good day.